It is Thursday, February 2nd, 2012, and I'm Eldine Udell, in which your ABS Evening News, joined by Amarilla Henry, signing for the hearing impaired. In the headlines at this hour, Technology for Education 2020 reaches the Sister Isle, Calypsonians being urged to boycott CDC registration, and Abbott workers refuse to work under central government. And a little later, knowing is half the battle when it comes to heart disease. More on prevention. Those were our headlines. We now take a look at the news in detail. We begin with this. Technology for Education 2020 has now been extended to the shores of the Sister Isle. The Ministry of Information, Broadcasting, Telecommunications, Science and Technology, in partnership with telecommunications company Lime, launched a program in Barbuda on Wednesday. Alciana Tittle has the details.
Under the Technology for Education 2020 component of the Connect Antigua and Barbuda initiative, some 39 teachers from Barbuda receive high-speed laptops and carrying cases during a ceremony at the Sir McChesney George Secondary School. Minister of Information, the Honorable Dr. Edwin Mansour, says students are being equipped through their teachers to become more competitive. He says the Technology for Education 2020 program will empower teachers and students by giving teachers the necessary tools to improve their professional development and assist in their daily activities with their students.
Coupled with the computer is access to broadband, as Davison said, and I'm very pleased that he's committed to providing this school with high-speed broadband in every room within the next 3 months. So come May 1st, I'm going to ask Minister Walker to rejoin me here in Codrington for the launch of Wi-Fi technology at the Holy Trinity School. I want the teachers to get access to the broadband, because you can empower yourself and retool. You can do online education. And once we get broadband over the entire island of Barbuda, it means the teachers can take the laptops to their homes, their family members can use it, their children can use it. So you see the multiplicative value of access to the internet.
He says the ministry is willing to organize a 2 to 3 day extensive training program in ICTs for the teachers in Barbuda. Mansour adds that he will assign 2 of his staff members to work with the teachers in Barbuda over a continuous period and expose them to the inner workings of the basics of ICT. Minister of Parliament for Barbuda, the Honorable Trevor Walker, challenged Minister Mansour and the Ministry of Information to ensure that every student at the Holy Trinity and the Sir McChesney George schools receive laptops. Walker says gone are the days when education was said to be static.
Education today takes on a different meaning. It takes on unlimited avenues when it comes to the digital divide and ICTs. And so I always say to myself that Barbuda, in my mind, must lead on this initiative, because we're small and I think we can consolidate in a way to show that we can lead in this initiative.
Phase 4 of the Technology for Education 2020 component will be concluded on February 9 at the House of Restoration Ministries, St. John's Pentecostal. Over 500 laptops will be awarded to the final group of teachers. To date, 1,054 laptops have been distributed to teachers in Antigua and Barbuda under the program. Alciana Tittle reporting for ABS News.
Now we hear that President of the Wadadli Calypsonians Association Incorporated, Delza Lipstick Sheridan, has made a call to Calypsonians to boycott the upcoming Carnival Development Committee CDC registration process. Sheridan, in a recent interview, says prize monies are still outstanding since the 2011 competition. The same issue of late payments occurred with the 2010 competitions as well. Sheridan added that the issue of late payments is disrespectful to Calypsonians. The CDC registration process is scheduled for February 20th to April 30th. Minister of State with responsibility for culture, the Honorable Elston Adams, in early January said some monies were made available for artists to receive their payments. He had made it clear that since the downturn in the global economy, the difficulty in cash flow has contributed to the late payment of performers and winners in the carnival celebrations. He added that since the funds were delayed, he had kept in touch with the respective persons on the status of their payments over the months. Well, now we hear that several Abbott employees have turned down an offer to work under central government. The workers at the Institute of Technology received severance checks and offers of employment on Tuesday. Larissa Francis tells us more.
Antigua Trades and Labor Union ATNLU Industrial Relations Officer, Wolf Potter, is hoping that talks can continue shortly with the ministry's permanent secretary, Giselle Edwards. Potter says he was told that the letters did not contain all the information about the terms and conditions, as the situation is still being looked at. He says the letters set probation of 3 months, which individuals are totally opposed to, adding that there is also an issue with the rates of remuneration. Workers are also upset that the job offers were to take effect yesterday, less than 24 hours after they were made. A former employee of Abbott, who spoke to ABS Newsroom, says that she is not interested in the offer and will not take it up. The severed worker says she took her package and went home. 48 Abbott workers have received severance pay totaling over $2.5 million ahead of the implementation of the University of Antigua and Barbuda. The intention is to merge Abbott, the Antigua and Barbuda Hospitality Training Institute, and other government-owned tertiary institutions under the Ministry of Education. Potter says the situation at Abbott needs to be regularized as soon as possible, since the students are also being put at a disadvantage with the disruption of classes. Larissa Francis reporting for ABS News.
Now to this, the city of St. John's was recently the center of an urban studies project carried out by 40 students in the third-year design studio of the Caribbean School of Architecture at the University of Technology, UTEC, in Jamaica. As Sherilyn Beezer reports, this holds educational value for the students and developmental benefits for the government.
Head of the 3-year studio design team, Damien Edmond, explains the project and its purpose.
It involves analyzing the city, talking about the urban quality of the city, talking about the historic buildings, the commercial buildings, and how they're designed, and how we can basically design urban interventions within the city which are appropriate for St. John's. This is an extension of what they're going to do for their final project, in that they're going to design a building within the urban context of St. John's.
Chief Architect at Public Works, Wesley James, says the exercise is good as it provides, over a period of time, a chronological progress of how the city has developed. This, he adds, can assist the government as a planning tool to shape policies and decisions. Students Curland Duke, Matthew McFarlane, and Kyle Seaton speak of what they consider a marvelous project and share some of their findings.
We were able to have a deep understanding of St. John's, how it works, how the structure is, and this presentation here, it has benefited us, and hopefully people within the country can learn also from what we have done.
What I've noticed with the St. John layout, they basically attempted to maximize the little space that you guys have, as well as to set up the circulation patterns in such a manner as to alleviate the traffic during the peak periods of the days and stuff like that.
The scale is the most prominent thing. When you speak about scale, you're talking about the scale in terms of population size. So therefore that affects even the street width, the width of the street, the width of the sidewalk. So many things have to be different to accommodate for that scale.
McFarlane says this type of research should be done throughout the Caribbean on a regular basis and presented internationally to show the culture and history of the region. This is the third such project by UTEC in Antigua and Barbuda. Sherilyn Beezer reporting for ABS News.
Well, the Minister of National Security will host the first ever task force meeting as individuals are being charged with the responsibility of overseeing issues dealing with human trafficking. The Honorable Dr. Errol Court says such actions are being taken as results of the stipulations written in the Human Trafficking Act.
We are having a meeting of the task force, which is a creature of the Human Trafficking Act. In the Act, it specifies that the country must set up a task force comprising of a wide cross-section of key stakeholders to monitor and be on top of this particular situation. So the very first meeting of this task force will take place tomorrow at the Ministry of National Security.
Assistance from the International Organization of Migration, IOM, to get the relevant personnel familiar with the necessary information to tackle the issue. The minister outlined some of the areas that will be discussed at the meeting,
where we will look at the terms of reference of the task force, put things in place so that we as a group could be monitoring the situation. That's the first thing. Secondly, the IOM has agreed to assist us with at least 2 further workshops. Those workshops will take place over the next few months, and they will be intermediate and advanced courses building on the workshop that would have taken place here over the last 3 days. So there are lots of things planned in terms of further equipping our folks with the necessary skills to better able to deal with the challenge of human trafficking.
In other news at this hour, both the police commissioner and members of the public are being urged by the Minister of National Security to be proactive and mutual in their approach to eliminating crime within the Twin Island state. The remark was made during the minister's speech on Wednesday as he addressed the closing ceremony for a 3-day human trafficking workshop. Larissa Francis tells us more.
The National Security Minister, Dr. Errol Court, voices his utmost displeasure with the increase in crime that has been plaguing the island. Court says members of the Royal Police Force will have to double their efforts to crack down on such illegal activities as perpetrators must be brought to justice.
I speak specifically to the vexing issue of the apparent increase in robbery and aggravated robbery, and the apparent increase in break-ins and larceny. Those are areas of tremendous concern to me as National Security Minister, and I give the nation of Antigua and Barbuda the undertaking that our security forces shall redouble their efforts to make sure that we bring those perpetrators to justice and we deal with that vexing issue of aggravated robbery, persons using firearms with masks to hold up innocent people while they're walking home during the night or other times of day. Deputy Commissioner of Police, we must bring that situation under control and soonest.
He says already for the year, a breakthrough has been made as police have apprehended 1 major suspect.
I am pleased, though, that I believe that we may have had somewhat of a breakthrough last night. And I'm sure that we'll be hearing more from the police in that regard. But we shall redouble our efforts to ensure that any person, man or woman, could walk the streets of Antigua or Barbuda at any hour and feel safe that he or she will not be violated in any way.
The National Security Minister calls on the public to be a watchful eye for police officials, as most offenders are known.
And I use this occasion to make a special plea to our community at large, because persons who are committing these crimes, they're known to others. And I urge and I ask and I plead with all of our upright, law-abiding citizens in this country to come forward and help the police in dealing with this vexing issue. So if you know of any person who might be perpetrating these types of criminal activities, who might be having illegal guns and ammunition, please let the police know so that we can go and apprehend these perpetrators.
Court says individuals should be able to walk the streets and not be threatened. He says acts of crime will not be tolerated and law enforcement officials will do whatever necessary to ensure that it all comes to a stop. Larissa France is reporting for ABS News.
Well, the health of mangrove ecosystems continues to be the focus of the Environment Division's Education Unit within the year 2012. Focus is now being placed on the mangrove systems in the Johnsons Point area as the division and the National Solid Waste Management Authority consider activities to commemorate World Wetlands Day. Alciana Tittle has the details.
Environment Education Officer Arika Hill says they are looking at programs that will involve communities and encourage an understanding of mangroves and their functions. She believes people take better care of what they understand. Hill says they are still in the planning phase of the activity, but hopes to include other agencies and departments as they seek to bring greater awareness to the issues relating to mangrove ecosystems. Program Manager of the National Solid Waste Management Authority, David Spencer, explains that a cleanup exercise was conducted in the Cockle Bay area, which resulted in the collection of enough waste to fill a 10-ton truck by the end of the day. To this end, Spencer thinks it is necessary to educate community members about the uses and functions of the mangroves, especially as many persons rely upon them for fisheries purposes. The hope is that from these activities, a change in behavior, particularly as it relates to waste, will be seen. This year, World Wetlands Day is being celebrated under the theme, Wetland Tourism, a Great Experience. The theme intends to show a great significant link between the health of wetlands, specifically mangroves, and the tourism product. World Wetlands Day is celebrated annually on February 2nd. Alciana Tittle reporting for ABS News.
Now to this, Antigua and Barbuda is working towards updating its marine pollution contingency plan, which was last reviewed in 1985. Key agencies met Wednesday during a consultation at the National Office of Disaster Services, NODS, with disaster risk management consultant Paul Saunders, who is based in Trinidad and Tobago. The agencies included the Environment Division, Fisheries, the West Indies Oil Company, the Antigua and Barbuda Department of Marine Services and Merchant Shipping, the Central Board of Health, the Antigua and Barbuda Defense Force and Coast Guard, among others. Saunders says the aim of the consultation was to raise awareness about a draft plan and the roles and responsibilities of each responding agency. The draft document reflects the essential steps to initiate, conduct, and terminate an emergency marine spill response in Antigua and Barbuda, and also looks at recovery. The plan was modified by NODS through the services of Saunders, with funding and technical assistance from the Antigua and Barbuda Department of Marine Services and Merchant Shipping. Coming out of the consultation was the formation of a marine pollution subcommittee, out of which a core group was selected to further advance the plan and ensure its effectiveness. A training session will be held in March for representatives of the various agencies. Copies of the draft plan will be recirculated to the agencies, and it is expected that the final draft should be completed by the end of April. There will be also an exercise in April to test the plan.